This is a short demo about the imaging software I'm programming. So in this software, I already picked some data, and we can see that we have a project structure. And in a project, we can have multiple data sets in a group, and then we have multiple images in each group. And we can just click through them. And so here we have some actual data, and this is for the quantification. So here, if we try to analyze or if we try to visualize the data, we can just do it for one image. For example, if we just change the zoom factor here, we can zoom in, and if we want to have the same zoom factor on all the other images, we can just go down to zoom settings and then apply to and choose the whole group, for example, or the whole project. And then the settings are applied to all the images. If we, for example, zoom in and we drag the mouse, if we hold Control, we can change the zoom settings as well. And then if we double click, we can jump back, or if we use Control and double click, we can jump forward and backwards. So we have the zoom history, we have the possibility to zoom out, to change the zoom here. If we want to change, for example, the pane scale, we have some predefined options here. We also have hue scale or grayscale, monochrome, or color list, and then we have several options here. For example, we see a histogram of the data, and then we can decide where to put the maximum and minimum, and they are set in percentile mode, relative or absolute. So we can have absolute values, but if we prefer to just say we just want to cut off the maximum values, so we only cut off 0.2% of the maximum values, we can set it to percentile, or we can set it to relative if we want to set relative intensities. This can be pretty helpful, like both percentile and relative can be helpful if we want to apply it to different images, because these values usually differ from image to image. So the absolute values are always something that we have to optimize. But in this mode, we always get some sort of contrast if we just cut out some from the bottom and some from the maximum. And with this data, we can, for example, go on to ROIs. And so we have ROI statistics here. And the chart usually keeps as aspect ratio. We can disable that if we just click here. We can disable the aspect ratio, and sometimes we have to make sure that auto update is checked here, or we have to click on update. This is some sort of options if we have a slow computer or if we have a lot of data. We might want to uncheck auto update because it tries to register all the things happening here in these panels, and if something changes, it automatically updates. And so if we take out the aspect ratio, we can go on with ROI statistics. And now we can just drag boxes here, for example. One option is that we also have some sort of histogram here. So we can drag a box and then zoom out, and we can see the histogram of the data inside. And if we hold Control, we can also drag this around and see how the histogram is changing. So this histogram is also displayed down here. And then we have all the statistics here, like minimum, maximum, average, median, and standard deviation. And we can change the binning factor here, for example 1000. The smallest is excluded here. We can do Gaussian fit, So one pretty nice option is that we can drag the box here and we can see the distribution, and then we can just say we want to have a Gaussian fit from 0 to something, and then we get the distribution here. And if we now drag the box and change it, we can see how the Gaussian fit is automatically updated. And then we can use this, for example, as some sort of marker for standard deviation in a standard here, and we can use it for quantification. But another option is that we clear everything, and then we can create multiple, because we want to do like real quantification. So we have sample, we have quantifier, and we have blanks, but the blanks are not working right now. So we have samples or quantifiers, and then we have rectangles, or we have ellipse, and yeah, we can do some freehand exclusion, for example. So if we want to exclude this part, we can just draw around, and yeah, we set this to quantifier, so it asks for some sort of concentration, but we can also change it here. So this is just a sample, and we can also exclude it here, just to cut out some unwanted data. For example, if we saw that this was a hole in the cut, then we can just exclude it. So, and then we can create multiple by selecting quantifier and rectangles, selections, and then create multiple. And in this dialog, we can just specify how we want to create the ROIs. And if we do so, this dialog pops up, and we can just enter our concentration, and it will always ask us 3 times here for 3 in a row, and then we have to change, and we can just accept. So I've changed the values here, and now we can see that we have all our selections here. And if we select, we can also click on this, and here we can zoom in, or we can select ROIs. And if we do so, we can mess up. Yeah, so here, if we hold shift, we are also allowed to like change the size, and if we use control, we can drag it around. But yeah, I've messed up because I accidentally made these smaller here. We could change that, so I could just go and insert the right coordinates here, or first I could change the size to 420 and the height like this, and the same for this one. And I can also just hit enter, and the size changes. Alright, and with this we have a quantification, because we have set the values of the concentrations here, and then we can just click on this and we can see the calibration curve. And this calibration can be now used to quantify different images. So if we close it, and then, so this was copper, and if we go to the copper image, we can go down, and just at the bottom we see that we have the regression or linear. So we can either just apply linear regression with the parameters here, or we can use regression and then choose from current list, and then I have to just select the correct calibration here. And this one was the wrong one. So yeah, so we go back, choose from current list, and then it was the second standard, and we can go to show regression and we see the same regression, and then we go to quantify and the values automatically change here. So here without quantification and with quantification. And then after doing everything, we can just go to save, and then we save the project, and after we import again, all the statistics are still done, the quantification is still done, so the connection between the data sets and the connection between quantification image and quantified image are still there. And so in this software, we can always save all the settings and the raw data to one project file. We can do raw statistics, we can do quantification, we can divide by an internal standard, we can change so we can change the visualization, so we can change if we want to have a scale here, for example, then the paint scale, we can change everything, we can change all the labels here. So if we just change this for a presentation and we make it bigger, then we can export graphics. So if we click here, we can export data, we can export graphics. So in this dialog we can see a preview, and we can export to vector graphics like PDF, EMF, EPS or SVG. We can export pixel graphics, and we can export the single image, a group, or the whole project, for example. So we can export all the images at once, and we can export with a fixed plot size with, for example, 300 dpi. So after setting the labels to 14, the labels will be 14 if we import the image with the specified width, and then we have a good resolution and still like the same label size. And then we go to save and retrieve all the images. Then we can go to the Multi-Image Explorer. And we can see all the images at the same time. And for example, if we say copper resembles the structure of the tissue, then we could say use range and input some value here. It's too high. Input some value, and then we can see that we create an alpha map, and this alpha map is created so that every value is excluded where copper is below 1. And then we apply this to all the images of the same group. So we do this, and if we now go to Zinc, for example, open the raw statistics dialog, we can see that all the data points are missing, and we can use this or we can uncheck. So if we again go to the histogram, and now we can just drag a rectangle here, and we can see a nice distribution. And if we uncheck and then activate the ROI again, we can see that all the background is in the ROI. And if we check and click again, we can see that we have only the data points that are relevant. So we can exclude all the holes and all the missing parts here. And we don't have to care about the actual shape. So we can just draw and get all the data we need. And we can also export this data, like here we can export all the data to an Excel sheet. And if we want to, for example, copy and paste, so let's say we're going to delete all of these. So we just want to have the same size all the time. We draw it, and then we just do copy paste here, or we can do Control C and Control V, and then we can shift it just with a keyboard. And to make it a bit faster, we can also say, so this is 930, so we can change this value to 930 and 950 here. And then after this we can do copy and paste, and then we can just shift. So we can do paste and shift. And we can drag these. And if we do it right, then it's quite fast.